Republicans to meet with us in the Oval Office. You welcomed ideas. You welcomed debate, all in the service of getting this bill done. And here is what I know to be true, Mr. President. You are equal parts believer and builder. And because you are, we are all better off. On behalf of our nation, thank you, Mr. President. And of course, our administration did not arrive at this day by ourselves. We are also here because of leaders in the House and the Senate who worked on this bill together, who voted for this bill. And we are here because of the millions of Americans who believed that we could get this done. Well, we got it done, America. We got it done. In many ways, this day embodies our character as a nation. It demonstrates exactly who we are. We are believers through and through. We see what can be unburdened by what has been. We are as bold as we are determined to do big things. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act proves that. It proves that in America, we have the courage to believe a better future is possible and to build it together. After this bill is signed into law, millions more Americans will go to work in good-paying, good union jobs. Americans like Jovan Johnson, a carpenter I met in Nevada, who said that she has, quote, built her career on infrastructure and fed her family on infrastructure. Americans like Jeff Bird, a line design technician I met with in New Hampshire. He attaches fiber to utility poles to keep up with the demand for high-speed internet. Or Leslie Kilgore, an engineer I met with in North Carolina, whose team is building electric school buses. Or Walter Cody, a construction inspector with whom I met, who is working to get clean water to families in California. This will be a nationwide effort, the likes of which we have not seen in a generation. It will make our country more competitive, and it will deliver on our nation's and our administration's commitment to equity. Now, this bill, as significant as it is, as historic as it is part one of two. To lower costs and cut taxes for working families, to tackle the climate crisis at its core, Congress must also pass the Build Back Better Act. The work of building a more perfect union did not end with the railroad or the interstate, and it will not end now. So on this historic day, let us all continue to believe in our people, believe in our country, and believe in what we can do when we work together. Thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless America.
Please welcome Heather Kurtenbach.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. As a proud union ironworker from Local 86 in Seattle, Washington, I am honored to be here at the White House on this historic day for workers like me and our country. I am an elected leader in my local union as a business agent and active in the Sisters Committee, which mentors newer ironworkers. Before I got where I am today, however, I had to overcome some challenges. In 2005, I was released from incarceration. While incarcerated, I was able to work on a wildland firefighting crew, sometimes heading out in the middle of the night to fight fires. That experience taught me a powerful work ethic and gave me lasting friendships. When I got out of prison, however, doors were closed to me. I searched for a job for 6 months with no offers. Finally, as a last-ditch effort, I asked my brother-in-law, a union iron worker, excuse me, how he made a living. He told me, go to the union and apply. You could totally do this work. And I'm so glad that I did. I was accepted into, thank you, yeah. I was accepted into the apprenticeship and went right out to a rebar job. I loved working rods and I fit right into the trade. I graduated from my apprenticeship at an uncertain time. The Great Recession 12 years ago was more of a depression for the construction industry. And many of my fellow journeyman workers, my co-workers, couldn't find work. Luckily, the Obama-Biden administration passed the Recovery Act that created a vital lifeline of jobs as the economy recovered, yes. Just like this infrastructure law will do for workers today, enabling them to rebuild America and take care of their families over the coming years. Roads and bridges, rail, transit, airports, water, a whole generation of our nation's infrastructure will be built, creating good union jobs for people just like me. It invests in historically disadvantaged communities, creating jobs and opportunities for people of every race, gender, and background. I'm proud to stand here today and represent the most diverse labor movement in history. Nearly half of my local's apprentices are women or people of color. And this law empowers unions to keep building the middle class, leaving no one behind. Most of all, I'm proud to stand here as an American in this moment. In our line of work, you have to trust one another to get the job done. And throughout this process, I knew we could trust someone to get this law done. Someone who understands what workers like me are going through and who always believes in us and what we can do if given a chance. I never imagined in a million years that I would be standing here today. Yeah. But that's what's great about America. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. But that's what's so great about America and having a president who believes someone like me should be standing here. On behalf of Local 86 in Seattle and union workers everywhere, for the faith he's placing in us, I am honored to introduce the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, thank you. Heather, you're surprised you're standing here. Jill is very surprised I'm standing here. Well, Heather, thank you for the introduction. And I can't look over here because the sun's shining in my eyes, but all this other crowd over here, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for all you've done. Look, thanks for sharing this day with us. Why this day matters to you and your fellow iron workers and your families, and you explained it well. For all the folks at home, I know this day matters to you as well. I know you're tired of the bickering in Washington, frustrated by the negativity, and you just want us to use and focus on your needs, your concerns, and the conversations that are taking place at your kitchen table. Conversation as profound as they are ordinary. How do I find work? And how do I get there? How can our small business thrive and our child succeed in school? Or how do we emerge from this pandemic, not just with a little bit of breathing room, but with real fighting chance to get ahead? When we ran for president, I thought maybe I could help answer some of those questions for you and the needs you have. Because every time I'd ride home on Amtrak, I'd go through just north of just south of Baltimore. I'd look out, go through a suburban neighborhood. I'd look in all those lights are on in the windows, Nance, and I look and I wonder, what are they talking about? I'm serious. Swear to God. What are they talking about sitting at that table? What are they talking about? They're talking about the things that I talked about at our kitchen table, Jill at hers, and all of you as well. And that's about how can we come together to be president for all Americans, to make sure our democracy delivers for you, for all of you. And I promised that we couldn't just build back to what it was before. We literally had to build back better. You couldn't build back. We're the only country that's always come out of great crises stronger than we went in. And the world has changed, and we have to be ready. My fellow Americans today, I want you to know we hear you and we see you. The bill I'm about to sign along is proof that despite the cynics, Democrats and Republicans can come together and deliver results. We can do this. We can deliver real results for real people. We see in ways that really matter each and every day to each person out there. And we're taking a monumental step forward to build back better as a nation. I want to thank everyone who helped make this happen. Vice President Harris, my cabinet members, my White House team, Jill, Doug, our first lady, and our first lady and our second husband. No, I'm joking. These guys travel all over the country together. I'm getting worried, you know. And Doug's one hell of a lawyer besides. And everybody from the United States Senate, Majority Leader Schumer, and a group of Senate Democrats and Republicans who established this bipartisan framework, including representatives and all the folks you heard from. Senator Rob Portman is a really hell of a good guy. I'm not hurting you, Rob, because I know you're not running again. That's the only reason I say it. But you are a hell of a good guy. And the most determined woman I know, Senator Kristen Sinema. Congratulations, Kristen. Look, Committee Chair Tom Carper, Ranking Member Shelley Moore Capito. I also want to thank Minority Leader Mitch McConnell for voting for this bill and talking about how useful and important it is. And from the House of Representatives, Speaker Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, Jim Clyburn, and Committee Chair Pete DeFazio. Democrats and Republicans, progressives and moderates, I'd like to pause and ask all the committee chairs and ranking members of the United States Senate and House that are here today, please stand. Will all of you stand? Come on. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To state the obvious, none of this would have happened without all of you. I really mean it. And also to the governors. Where are the governors? Governors, stand up. Come on, I want you to stand up. Red states, blue states, you all contacted me. You all said you were for this. You all stepped up. And more than 375 mayors, Democrats and Republicans, from every state and District of Columbia, wrote me asking to get this done. You got it, kid. And nearly 50 of whom are here today, including Republican Mayor Fontana, who from Fontana, California, Mayor Warren, who spoke earlier, and county and state and tribal leaders as well, civil rights leaders, faith leaders, law. You know, this law was supported by business groups, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers, the Business Roundtable, representing 200 of the largest corporations in America, and other top business. I want to especially thank, and I'm sure you'll all, as we used to say in the Senate, I say in point of personal privilege, I want to thank organized labor, who understands this about jobs. You all stood up. Jobs, 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 jobs. Special thanks to the AFL-CIO, the United Auto Workers, electrical workers, the IBEW, the iron workers, it goes on, plumbers, pipe fitters, and the building trades, steel workers. Who would I leave out? Pardon me? And my wife is a member of the union, the NEA. I'm going to get in trouble. Machinists, so many more. Look, folks, For too long, we've talked about having the best economy in the world. We've talked about asserting American leadership around the world with the best and the safest roads, railroads, ports, airports. Here in Washington, we've heard countless speeches and promises and white papers from experts. But today, we're finally getting this done. So my message to the American people is this: America's moving again, and your life is going to change for the better. If you live in one of the 10 million homes, or you're a child who attends one of the 400,000 schools or child care centers that still has lead pipes in them, you face a clear and present danger to your child's health and your health now. This law is going to start to replace 100% of the nation's lead pipes and service lines. So every American, every child can turn on the faucet and drink clean water. And tens of thousands of plumbers and pipe fitters are going to get work done in good-paying jobs. Folks, as we saw with remote learning, remote working during the pandemic, access to high-speed internet is essential, and access to water as essential as access to water and electricity. This law is going to make high-speed internet affordable and available everywhere in America, urban, suburban, rural, and create jobs laying down those broadband lines. No parent, excuse me, no parent should have to sit in a parking lot at a fast food restaurant again, just so their child can use the internet to do their homework. That's over. And folks, if I visited your town, I'm sure you'd be able to tell me and where you hold your breath as you cross the particular bridge, or where the most dangerous intersection in your town is. This law makes us the most significant investment in roads and bridges in the past 70 years. It makes the most significant investment in passenger rail in the past 50 years, and in public transit ever. So what that means is you're going to be safer, and you're going to get there faster, and we're going to have a whole hell of a lot less pollution in the air. The bipartisan law will modernize our ports, our airports, our freight rail to make it easier for companies to get goods to market, reduce supply chain bottlenecks, as we're experiencing now, and lower cost for you and your family. The law also builds on our resilience so that the next storm, superstorm, drought, wildfire, hurricane can be dealt with. Last year alone, the United States, as a consequence of these kind of extreme weather events, lost $99 billion in the United States alone in damage. After Hurricane Ida, I see the distinguished governor from Louisiana is over there. I saw him stand up. I went down to see him. We went through and saw all the damage there. They had 179-mile-an-hour winds at top speed in Louisiana. But then I headed on up to New York. Chuck, we're up in your area, in the Queens, in New Jersey. More people died there than in the hurricane. More people died with the flooding. Record wildfires raged, and I went to Idaho and California and saw it. More land is burned to the ground than the entire state of New Jersey out west. Folks, walk the neighborhoods and look the people in the eye in these circumstances, as many of you have, and you'll see the despair and the heartache. So many of you understand. You're living through it. This law builds back our bridges, our water systems, our power lines, our levees, better and stronger, so few Americans will be flooded out of their homes or lose power in those days and weeks as a consequence of storms that hit. Folks, this bipartisan law, for the first time ever, creates a true national network of charging stations for electric vehicles, over 500,000 of them, so you can charge your car here and drive all the way to California, not worrying about having to find places to charge, creating thousands of jobs, thousands. It is also going to make it possible for Americans to get off the sidelines and into the game of manufacturing solar panels, wind turbines, batteries to store energy and power for electric vehicles, including electric school buses, which will mean millions of children will no longer inhale the dangerous diesel fumes that come out of the buses. For real, it's a big deal. And it'll reward companies for paying good wages and for buying American, sourcing their products here in America right now. It's going to help the United States export clean energy technologies to the world, creating tens of thousands of more jobs. There's so much more in the law, but most of all, it does something truly historic. I ran for president believing it was time to rebuild the backbone of this nation, which I characterize as working people in the middle class. They're the ones who built the country. And to rebuild the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. This law delivers on that long overdue promise, in my view. It creates better jobs for millions of Americans. And no one earning less than $400,000 a year will pay a single penny in federal taxes because of it. And it does not include, as we did the bipartisan infrastructure bill, it does not include a single penny in gas tax, which I rejected because people under $400,000 would be paying it. This law is a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America. It leaves no one behind, and it marks an inflection point that we face as a nation. For most of the 20th century, we led the world by significant margin because we invested in ourselves. But somewhere along the way, we stopped investing in ourselves. We risked losing our edge as a nation, and China and the rest of the world are catching up. Our infrastructure used to be rated the best in the world. Now, according to the World Economic Forum, we rank 13th in the world. Well, that's about to change. Things are going to turn around in a big way. For example, because of this law, next year will be the first year in 20 years American infrastructure investment will grow faster than China's. We'll once again have the best roads, bridges, ports, and airports over the next decade. And we'll lead the world into the 21st century with modern cars and trucks and transit systems. We're going to do this by building again and moving again. Folks, too often in Washington, the reason we didn't get things done is because we insist on getting everything we want, everything. With this law, we focus on getting things done. I ran for president because the only way to move this country forward, in my view, was through compromise and consensus. That's how the system works. That's American democracy. And I'm going to be signing a law that is truly consequential because we made our democracy deliver for the American people. We compromised. We reached a consensus. That's necessary. And now our focus moves to implementing an infrastructure law that's going to, with speed and with discipline. I have a lot of experience in doing that. When I was vice president, I was given responsibility for overseeing and implementing the Recovery Act for nearly $900 billion emergency package. I'm proud to say that when we finished implementing that Recovery Act, it was determined that there had been less than 0.2% waste, fraud, or abuse. And it was how I learned and earned the nickname Sheriff Joe from President Obama, because I made it a point every single day for well over a year to stay on top of how the money was being used. I spoke with over 160 mayors, 2-3 times sometimes. And I spoke with county executives, and every governor save one. Well, I won't mention that. And save one. She could see Alaska from reports. But monitor what we're doing. That was just how it was being done. And it was one of the most efficient implementations of a major program in American history. And now we owe it to the American people to do the same thing again. And to make sure every penny is spent where it's supposed to go in a timely fashion, I've asked the former mayor of New Orleans and former lieutenant governor of Louisiana, Mitch Landrieu, to oversee this responsibility. He'll have full access to every tool the federal government has to get it done. And we have the high obligation and responsibility to make sure this money is used wisely and used well. Folks, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time, like all of my colleagues here have. Tomorrow, I'll be traveling to New Hampshire to visit a bridge that is structurally not safe, like thousands of bridges across America. That's what this law is all about, keeping communities safer and more efficient. On Wednesday, I'll be in Detroit to meet with the UAW workers who are building the next generation of electric vehicles. And that's just the beginning. We're also seeing you'll be seeing me and Vice President Harris, Jill and Doug, cabinet officials, hitting the road to help you understand how this is going to transform your lives for the better. And folks, when you see those projects starting in your hometowns, I want you to feel what I feel. Pride. Pride in what we can do together as the United States of America. Folks, you know, the same goes for my plan to build back better for the people. Getting folks back to work and reducing cost of things like child care, elder care, housing, health care, prescription drugs, and meeting the moment on climate change. I'm confident that the House will pass this bill, and then we're going to have to pass it in the Senate. And it's fully paid for. It will reduce the deficit over long term, according to the leading economists in the world. And again, no one earning less than $400,000 will pay a single penny more in federal taxes. And together with the infrastructure bill, millions of lives will be changed for the better. Folks, let me close with this. Throughout our history, we've emerged from crises by investing in ourselves. During and after the Civil War has been referenced, we built the Transcontinental Railroad, uniting East and West and uniting America. During the Cold War, we built the interstate highway system, transforming how America lived their lives. And now we're emerging from COVID-19 pandemic, and we'll build an economy for the 21st century. When I met with President of China, who I'm going to be speaking with tonight, several years ago, he asked me, we were in China, he said, could I define America? And I said, absolutely. It's the God's truth. I said, absolutely. I can define it in one word: possibilities. Possibilities. There is no limit to what our people think we can do, and there is no limit to what our nation can do. And there is no one thing that I know more than this: it's never, ever been a good bet to bet against the American people. Never, never, never. Given half a chance, the American people have never, ever, ever let this nation down. And it's our job to give our people that chance. It's our job to come together and make sure we remain a nation of possibilities. As I look out in this crowd today, I see Democrats and Republicans, national leaders, local leaders, all elected officials, labor leaders, business leaders, and most of all, I see fellow Americans. I see America. Let's remember this day. Let's remember we can come together. And most of all, let's remember what we've got done for the American people when we do come together. I truly believe that 50 years from now, historians are going to look back at this moment and say, that's the moment America began to win the competition of the 21st century. So with confidence, optimism, with vision and faith in each other, let's believe in possibilities. Let's believe in one another. And let's believe in America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Now let me sign this bipartisan bill.
All right, you just heard there from an enthusiastic President Joe Biden here as he signs this historic infrastructure bill. As we mentioned here, $1.2 trillion in infrastructure improvements, including $550 billion in money for roads, bridges, transit, railways, airports, waterways. We heard from a whole slew of speakers. I mean, it was a lot of pomp and circumstance because this is a very rare bipartisan gathering, which makes it historic on its own. State and local officials from all over the country are there today. And this White House is using this opportunity, as you can see, to tout itself on a topic that has really eluded essentially several presidencies, infrastructure. So that's what we're watching this morning here. We heard from Senator Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Vice President Kamala Harris, among a few. Also locally, a local woman from Seattle, Heather Kurtenbach, an iron workers union worker in Seattle, just telling her story about, from going to prison in Gig Harbor to eventually being an iron worker in this area and what this bill means to her. So that was an interesting local tie, along with the fact that Representative Kim Schreier, Representative Pramila Jayapal, all in attendance as well for this bipartisan event, as you can see here. Okay, so glad we could show you that this morning here. Also, or I guess I should say afternoon, it is now 1:22 p.m. right now. So we want to get you the latest forecast right now because really the big story in our neck of the woods has been the weather in Western Washington. Flooding, fallen trees, power outages. It sounds like we're up to 100,000 people across the state without power right now. So let's talk a little bit with Fox 13's Brian McMillan with the very latest on this situation because things are continuing to ramp up right now.
It has been such a busy weather morning.
Yeah.
We've physically watched those rivers rise, especially up in the North Sound here today, and they're getting to very, very dangerous levels. There are water rescues happening in some of the smaller towns up there in Whatcom County. Right now, the bit of good news that I have is that the heaviest rain is starting to pass ahead of that front. That front is now moving its way through the Puget Sound area, and with that, you're going to notice those winds really kicking up and the winds shifting from south to westerly. Right now, we do have some really heavy rain just east of I-5 out there north of Cedar-Woolley and Bellingham. This is going to continue to push its way east towards Concrete. And that's right along the Skagit River there. As we head down to Snohomish County, Everett area seeing some heavier rainfall. And as you work your way up Highway 2 out there towards Gold Bar, we'll head south, North Bend, all the way up to Snoqualmie Pass, seeing some heavier rainfall. That is just rain for now. That will transition over to snow coming up here a little bit later on this evening. And as we work our way a little farther south towards Enumclaw. But notice along the I-5 corridor, I hear we're seeing a little bit of sunshine, and that doesn't surprise me. Usually on the back ends of these fronts, once it passes and that cooler air arrives, we do get to see some sunshine in the mix, but it is still very windy out there. The Skagit River is one of those that we have been keeping a close eye on here over the past couple of days. We do expect it to crest at all-time record levels here at about 37.5 feet. The old record, or the current record, is 37.4 feet, and that was back in 1990. Some of you may remember a flood back in 2003, I believe it was, and that was about 1.5 feet below this. So if you've lived in that area long enough and you remember the 1990 flood and then you remember the 2003 flood, this is going to be likely worse than that. And with all this water over these roadways here across our region, remember that it can turn dangerous really fast if you try to drive through it. If it's just 6 inches deep, it can be enough to lose traction. You can start flooding the interior or your engine depending on the height of your vehicle. If it's 12 inches deep, it can float many cars. So it only takes a foot to get your car actually off the ground. And if that water's moving, it can actually cause your car to float. And then if we're talking 2 feet deep, well, the car is gone because it can actually carry away SUVs and pickup trucks. So it is not a good idea to drive through floodwaters. And we've seen that. We see that every time we get flooding. We see people try to drive through these and people get stuck, and then there goes your car. All right, Whidbey Island just gusted about 20 minutes ago to 61 miles an hour as those wind shifts and as that front is pushed through. Recent, past 15 minutes here, 58-mile-an-hour gust there. Bellingham, notice all the arrows pointing this way. All morning long, they were pointed up to the north. We had a southerly wind. Now we have a westerly wind as that front's passed. We're still seeing a southerly wind in Seattle at 28 miles an hour, but we're going to continue to see strong gusts here coming up over the next 30 to 60 minutes or so. Then we'll start to see things calm down. As that front passes, it's going to leave cool air up in the Cascades as well. Those snow levels drop dramatically, and I expect a lot of snow here tonight up in the Cascades. Other than the convergence zone area, most of us will be dry by the time we hit tomorrow morning. Just that convergence zone area might see a little bit of shower activity along the King County, Snohomish County line and up towards Everett. Then as we get into Tuesday afternoon, look at this, well-deserved sunshine. But tomorrow we will be focused there on the Skagit River as I do expect it to crest tomorrow morning to really dangerous levels. Heading into Wednesday, we're back to clouds. So we'll get there, folks. Calmer weather is ahead, but lots of snow up in the Cascades on top of everything else. Ooh, look at Stevens Pass, 15 inches. I'd say 1 foot to 1.5 feet is pretty reasonable here over the next several hours. And we'll even get a little bit of snow out there in Olympic National Park, about 1 inch there. All right, so here's the rest of today for you. The lowlands around 60 degrees, but we are cooling now. I think we already hit the low 60s today. Now we're back down into the 50s as that cold air has arrived. Expect it to be windy through the afternoon, and then things calm down a bit here later on tonight. Tomorrow's partly cloudy. We should see plenty of sunshine in the afternoon, but look at that high temperature. We're dropping down into the upper 40s and mid 40s by Wednesday. That cool air stays in place as we hit the end of the weekend on into next weekend. Next chance for rain is going to be Thursday night here and on into Friday morning. And then I expect us to be mainly dry for next weekend. And boy, do we deserve that. Liz?
Brian, appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around. You know, we also have Fox 13's John Hoppersad in Skagit County, where flooding on the Skagit River has caused the small town of Hamilton to evacuate. John, what's the latest?
Something you don't see every day, a boat in the middle of a highway. This is the Lyman-Hamilton Highway up here in Hamilton in Skagit County, Washington. And that boat, owned by a homeowner, wanted to go around and check his property, his flooded out property along here. This is the Skagit River that continues to rise across this highway here. The Jeep is going to help him turn around here and also get his passenger off there as well. But we are seeing potentially record flooding in this area. I've been told by a city employee that every side road up here is basically closed and flooded at this time, and that's why people are maneuvering around on boats right now. But there is an evacuation alert that has been sent out to every resident up here. About 300 people live in the town of Hamilton, telling them to evacuate the area, get out while they can. Now, there are still homes, there's neighborhoods back here if you see, and there are still some people in their homes back here, and at this point they've just got to wait it out. There's no way in or out of those homes. For people that have made it out of their homes, there's an evacuation site at a local church here. It's one of the highest points in the area, but again, everybody being told to evacuate at this point. Some people may not be able to do that until this water starts to subside, and it doesn't sound like that's going to happen anytime soon. We could be seeing again record levels, 41 feet for the Skagit River here in this area. So this appears to be the best way to get around right now, by boat here in Hamilton, as these waters continue to rise here. The Skagit River could be hitting record levels at some point, 41 feet. We don't know. We'll keep an eye on it. The rain continues to fall here as well.
All right, John, appreciate it. Thank you. So we also want to go further west on the Skagit River to Mount Vernon, where we told you earlier this morning there's a civil emergency in effect for Mount Vernon until Wednesday, where they're asking people to make a plan for their families, their properties, and their homes. Brian Flores has been there tracking the crest of that water. Brian?
Well, for several days now, the Pacific Northwest has just been pounded with rain, with wind, and there is another concern right now, and it is rising river levels. Now, where I'm at right now, I'm in a city called Mount Vernon, roughly about an hour and a half north of Seattle. And right behind me is the Skagit River. As you can see, the river levels, the river is raging. As you can see right here, lots of different debris going through this river. We've seen tree trunks go here, tree stumps, pieces of fences go through here along the Skagit River all morning long here. The concern is that this river continues to rise. So as we speak, this river is at 30.5 feet. But before all is said and done, according to meteorologists, this is going to rise another 7 feet. So add to the 30.5 feet, you add another 7 feet, and there are many concerns today here in the town of Mount Vernon. They have seen this in the past before. Back in '05, there was another flooding event that happened that did damage around town as well. And so there's a lot of concern over that. That being said, Mount Vernon Public Works crews, they have installed right here this flood wall. This is a flood wall that was, the infrastructure was built back in 2018 because of those previous events in '05. A lot of people have saw similar events back in the 90s as well. This is to prevent that flooding perhaps from going into the city proper. So this is going to be one true test today. If this river does break records, as some of the meteorologists are predicting, this is going to be a true test to see if this works or not. But a lot happening here in the Pacific Northwest. A lot of rain. We've seen gusts up to 46 miles per hour earlier today as well. So a lot happening here in the Pacific Northwest. We'll stay on top of it. But for now, I'm Brian Flores in Mount Vernon. Back over to you.
All right. Brian, appreciate that. Thank you for being out there this morning. You can see just from the way Brian's all, bundled up, how rainy it is out there and how windy it's been as well. I mean, we're talking about historic flooding, rain, and winds. In fact, so many water rescues have happened as well. And as we've been tracking this weather today, we actually just learned about a rescue operation that was underway while we were watching what was going on in Washington, D.C. this morning here. So why don't we show you that to you this morning? This is from the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office, that rescue operation underway, just to give you a look at some of the current conditions if we can. Brian, and as we talk a little bit about this, I mean, this is just one of the situations we've seen all over the region today.
Right. And these these areas here, these people can't get in their cars. Their cars are underwater, halfway underwater.
Which is what we talk about all the time when we have these types of situations.
Exactly. And, you know, if the sheriff's office can, you know, drive a boat down these roads to help save these people, and a lot of these little towns and cities up there in Whatcom County right now that are completely underwater, there is no way out. So if somebody's having a medical emergency, if somebody needs to get out of there, they can't right now, and this is the only way they're going to be able to get out, or unless a helicopter's able to get in there. But the winds have been so strong, even that makes things difficult.
Which is also, you know, the trooper there, when we talk about that Whatcom County rescue, they're asking people not to call with unnecessary risks that could tie up resources, because they already are, you know, they're incredibly busy right now. In fact, Washington State Patrol said earlier they had 34 weather-related calls today. That's just Washington State Patrol. That's not including any of the sheriff's offices around the area. I mean, we talk about what's going on. Sumas was one of those places today that we were really honed in on when we talk about that. The flooded water. This was Cherry Street, I believe.
Yep.
They were telling people, I believe you were talking about it earlier, Brian. They were saying, don't try to even drive from Sumas to Bellingham. It's impossible. You can't do it, and it's incredibly dangerous.
And that was even before it got this bad. Exactly.
Yeah.
That was before it got this bad. This morning, really early, around 5, 6 a.m., they were saying, do not even try to get to Bellingham. That's along the Canadian border, Sumas is.
All right, and this is the Skagit River nearing those record flood levels near Allen this morning. This is some viewer video, and by the way, we appreciate you sending viewer video. Please do that if you can safely. You can always send it on our Fox 13 weather app. It's such an incredible resource, and it helps us tell the weather story as well. But these are record flood levels that we haven't seen in, what, near 20 years.
Yeah, at least. I mean, in some areas here, this is the highest it's been in recorded history, or what we will see here coming up by tomorrow morning will be the highest that some of these rivers have been in recorded history. This is another look at Whatcom County. And you can really just see how the water's just raging as it moves its way out into the Sound out that direction. This is a widespread issue up in Whatcom County, okay? This is not just one little river. This is a widespread issue up there. And it's all due to that atmospheric river. It's due to that snow melt as well. And we're not done with it yet. Even though the rain's ending here, coming up over the next 18 hours or so, we're going to still see these rivers rise, especially out there as you work your way toward the Sound. So spots like Mount Vernon, where Brian Flores was just a little while ago, that area is going to be at its peak, cresting tomorrow morning.
I guess that goes into my next question, because as you talk about the next 8, 10, 12, 18 hours, as you're saying, I mean, where are the spots that we're looking at right now that we're really focused on when it comes to some of that area flooding and some of the winds as well? I know you said that some of that's going to die down tomorrow. I mean, how are the next 12 to 24 hours looking?
So the ground is saturated now, big time, right? Up in that area, we could still see landslides and things like that. The wind should die down a little bit here later on this afternoon and into the evening, at least to more reasonable levels. And then with the rain done now, we're still going to see these rivers rise. It takes a while for them to go down. So they should crest, again, at near record levels or near historic levels coming up here a little bit, well, let's see here, but by early tomorrow morning, probably around 7, 8 o'clock or so. So the rain now pushing on. That's good news. Behind this, though, is some really gusty wind. We're still seeing that up and down the I-5 corridor and all the way out to the coastline. Let's take a look at those wind speeds. Whidbey Island, 58-mile-an-hour winds just past 15 minutes or so. SeaTac gusting to 44 miles an hour. So we're still seeing damaging winds out there. You combine that with all the rain that we've seen, the saturated ground, it's really easy for trees to come down. And then, of course, up in Whatcom County and Skagit County, dealing with those just flooded conditions. And those folks are going to be dealing with that for quite some time. A lot of damage up there, Liz.
All right, Brian, appreciate it. So there's plenty more to talk about weather-wise. I mean, we have several updates on the Fox 13 weather app, as I mentioned here. Please download that, because it'll give you the weather conditions where you are as we take a look at some of these videos from earlier, just to give you an idea of how dangerous it is out there. Please download that, use it. It is a great resource. Also, you can send us, hopefully safely, some weather video. We would love to show that on air here at Fox 13. Also, go to our website, fox13seattle.com. We've got a blog there. It's a live blog where we're tracking all of this stuff that we're bringing to you all day long. Live Weather Alert Day team coverage also continues on air at 4 o'clock right here. Thanks for sticking with us. Have a great day. We'll see you back here at 4 p.m.